Alright people, Mike Salden here again. Welcome back to the day 3 of my Baldur's Gate blind playthrough. Just pick it up right where we left off, where I picked up Karlach as our newest party member. And I just went ahead and leveled her up to level 3. And I added a second class to her. I was flipping through them for a minute, just trying to decide what would be the best one. And I think I ultimately went with a kind of safe choice that I don't regret, but I think I could have been a bit more adventurous and made Karlach like a warlock or a wizard or something. But I thought because she was like a barbarian already, it would probably be wise to like add fighter as her second sort of class because it seems like the kind of character she is. Um, So it might be a bit safe, a bit boring, but I thought it would fit Karlach to make her second class of fighter. So she's a barbarian fighter. Um, Hopefully it comes in useful. She seems really powerful and like our strongest party member at the moment. So I'm going to be relying on her to do a lot of damage. After I leveled her up, I went back to the camp for the first time. I hadn't been visiting the camp yet at all, and it seemed like that was a bit of a mistake because I hadn't been resting the characters and getting their health and magical abilities restored and stuff. So I just went back here and offloaded all the stuff I'd been picking up and stored it in a chest for later so that I could collect it all and just sell it when I had time. And I also realized this is where you get some like story cutscenes for the party members. This one is where Will and Karlach are confronting each other. I was wondering when this was going to happen because I didn't bring Will with us to find Karlach out in the wilds. So now he confronts her in the camp. I don't know if a lot of people did it this way or if they just took him with them in their party to go find Karlach originally, but this is the way it played out for me when I tried to sleep in camp for the first time. This little cutscene played. And it's basically Will goes into Karlach's mind, and they can like figure out that basically Karlach isn't evil like Will had been told, and that somebody's been manipulating him to do their dirty work and try to get rid of Karlach basically. So it kind of resolved itself. I managed to persuade Will to back down. And basically tell him that Karlach's not really a danger to us. Um, he was putting up some resistance here, but I just like told him basically you saw inside her head, you saw she's not evil, and really everyone approved of my analysis. So I think Karlach is the most well liked character in our camp, to be honest. Because normally when you stand up for maybe Shadowheart or something, Lizelle will disapprove of that. Or if you do something Lizelle to approve of Lizelle, Shadowheart won't like that maybe. Or there's always someone you can't please. But it seems when I stood up for Karlach, the entire camp approved of that. So I thought that was interesting. And it seems everybody kind of likes Karlach. Unless I misread it and there was somebody who disapproved, but it looked like a sea of everybody approved of that basically. So then I talked to Karlach and she was happy that this was resolved. And then I went to talk to Will and got a bit more of his backstory, where he's kind of like hinting that somebody's been manipulating him and has power over him. We'll probably find out more about that later. Um, So I didn't want to like pry into it at the moment, just in case he didn't approve of that or whatever. And basically, I just went around and talked to all the characters, made sure I was up to date with all their personal quest lines, and then I just went to sleep and got back to what I was doing. My main plan, well, yeah, of course, I had to use the camp supplies first to make sure everyone got some food and was rested correctly. So I like that there's a point to collecting all this food and random stuff. and it's not just to sell. It actually has a purpose back at your camp. And then of course everyone went to sleep around the fire, and that advances time to the next day, where Scratch the dog finally showed up. I was wondering where he was at. He didn't seem to be there last night, and I gave him a nice little pet, and then like three of the characters in the camp approved of that. So I guess if you want some approval quickly, you can just pet your dog. I wonder if that keeps repeating. I'm not sure, but we'll see later, I guess. Karlak was just reminding me that we promised to help her get some guys, these paladins, up the hill, and she's just eager to remind me that we have to go do that task for her. But I decided I wanted to return to the Emerald Grove now that I had Karlak. So I made my way back, retracing my steps, and I got back to this village and decided to look around a bit more. And this time I noticed there was this dagger stuck in this like bit of meat up on this hill, roasting on a fire. And I managed to pass this little skill check and pull out or notice that there would be a safe way to extract the knife without like injuring myself or whatever. So I just got this nice little dagger from that. And I tried to steal the meat or something here, but I couldn't seem to pick it up or anything, so I just left it there. And basically that was all I did up there. And I came back to this door because I'd heard like some sort of like noises behind it. And I thought there was going to be something to fight in here. So I tried to like just open the door, and then Shadowheart was like, "Yeah, I think people don't want to be disturbed, whatever they're doing in there." So I decided to just leave that scene alone because I assumed something that I couldn't show on YouTube was maybe gonna occur if I opened the door. So yeah, I decided to leave that door, and we'll just leave what's happening in there in our imagination on this playthrough. And maybe when I'm more of an evil character in my second playthrough or something, I might just barge in there and see what happens. I noticed there was a sleeping bugbear or whatever over here, and I thought this would be a good opportunity to get a little sneak attack on him and maybe get some XP for taking down like a pretty like stunned enemy or whatever. So I just snuck up on him and got ready to deploy like a sneak attack on him. Excuse me. I was trying to figure out what would be best to do, and I just quickly saved in case this went wrong. I decided to use Karlak because she's really strong, and I thought that would take down a lot of his health pretty quickly. And I also just wanted to see what her abilities were like because, of course, I hadn't used her in combat yet. So this was just a good little chance to try that. So because we got the sneak attack on this guy, he went down pretty quickly. And then I just stole all the stuff that was next to him. Most of it's probably junk, but yeah, when we come to sell it, every little bit of gold helps. There seemed like there was a lot more stuff around this abandoned village that I could maybe interact with. But I decided that I should get back to the Emerald Grove. And that I would again come back here later because I was feeling all these perception checks in that little house, and I thought maybe I'm not supposed to be here yet, really. So I came back to Emerald Grove. I actually interacted with this telescope that I had ignored before for some reason, and that let me spot that there was like a dragon off in the distance. I had to do another little skill check just to make sure that I could see what the object was in the distance correctly. I don't know if this is going to help me with anything later by being aware that there's a dragon in that direction, but it seemed interesting. I think I ignored the telescope when I first came up here, and I can't really remember why I did that. I think it was because maybe I just assumed that you couldn't interact with it. But this game, it seems like you can interact with most objects that are placed in the world, and developers have really thought about why everything is there, and they've given you like a reason to interact with most things. I spoke to these little tiefling children who were training over here, and gave them a little inspirational comment that they need to fight fight for their kin or whatever. I noticed there was a strange ox over here. I'd clicked on it before, and I was aware that there's something different about it, but I wasn't able to really figure out what's going on with it just yet. I spoke to this strange child, turned around and then looked back, and then he was gone. And I tried to investigate this because it seemed like he was hiding somewhere nearby, and I actually failed that skill check. And I'll have to come back later to try again. Pretty sure, but it seemed like he crawled into some secret hideaway or something. But I decided I would deal with that later, and in the meantime, I would get on with my plan to free Sazza, the Goblin, from the little prison. I figured out how to like lockpick by using the context menu. It took me a little while to figure out that I was supposed to do that, but I used the vampire character again because he's really a rogue and pretty good at all this lockpicking and sneaking around and stuff. Um, and then I just told Sazza to follow us out of here basically. And again, my plan is really to use her to get access to the Goblin camp, and I'm just hoping that when I show up there, she's gonna be like, yeah, let her in because she helped us back at the Druid outpost or whatever. I was just talking to her, trying to get any extra dialogue I could out of her, just in case, but I didn't seem to be getting anywhere with her. So then I came over to this door. This seemed like a secret back exit out of this prison, and we found like this underground passage, and there were some goblins in here. They seemed to be sneaking into the base. So again, swapped to the vampire guy and started sneaking around, trying to get the drop on these guys. Um, I was a little, I was a little bit surprised that because we had this goblin character with us, that she couldn't talk them down. Um, and they just kind of get pissed at her, and they seem to have their own agenda where they think she's a failure, so they're just gonna take her down. And anyway, that led to this little battle in this underground cave. And there's an injured character in here that I end up healing. It's actually a bit of a mistake because he kind of like notices that we're helping a goblin escape, and I had to pass a skill check. But first, before we got to any of that, I had to take out all these other goblins that were in here. Um, I was getting better at figuring out how to use abilities and spells and not just rely on melee attacks, because in the beginning I was just relying on running up to the enemy and just hitting them with a basic melee attack, and now I'm sort of experimenting a bit more using different abilities, different spells, and trying to do ranged attacks, and just try to get the grips more with the combat. Because there is a lot to select and go through here. It is really pretty in depth, and it could be a bit overwhelming if you try to rush into it. So I'm just trying to take my time and get a little bit better at it each day. So I realized this guy was just unconscious at this point, and this is where I actually used like a healing spell on him to get him back up. I accidentally healed the wrong person there, but thankfully I still had enough ability points to get this guy up. Of course, he notices that we're helping a goblin escape right now, so I had to use a persuasion skill check to convince him that this goblin's leading me back to our camp, where we're gonna destroy the camp, which is currently my plan. It might change once I get there, because maybe the goblin leader is like way cooler than the druid leader, and I'm kind of like, yeah, actually I hate those druids. They've been treating the tieflings, they've been treating them like terribly, and I kind of want the druids to get their ass beat, and I could end up siding with the goblins. It just depends how evil their leader is when I get there, I guess, or how they treat tieflings, because my character being a tiefling is kind of a tiefling nationalist or something, I guess you could say. And they're gonna side with the Teflings, really. So I found this chest when I was down here, and I managed to pass a skill check to disarm a trap on it, and then use a lockpick. And I think I had to pass this other skill check. Managed to pass it as well. And then I just stole whatever was in here. And then of course this guy, yeah, he explains that it was his fault that the goblins got in here. They followed him in here when he was running away. And a bit of a disaster occurred here, where Sazza ran into a trap and got blown up before I could turn off the trap. So I had to reload that and do it again, because I didn't want to save scum too much. But when it came to like a key character like that dying in like a really stupid way, I kind of didn't mind save scumming, because it wasn't really my fault that Sazza is such an idiot that she just like ran into that trap, especially after that other guy just said, "Oh yeah, be careful of the traps in here." So once we got outside, we went our separate ways. Well, she tried to go her separate ways. I decided I was going to follow her for a while and see if she could lead me the entire way to the goblin camp, which would have been very funny if I managed to keep up with her, but she kind of despawned on this bridge. But that's okay, I guess, because if you kept following her, I guess you would run into a combat encounter eventually, and she would get away from you that way anyway. But after that, I came back to the Emerald Grove again. I was looking for someone to sell some stuff to, and when I spoke to this armorer guy, he seemed to have some stuff to say about Karlach, and he recognized that she came from the Avernus Hells, or whatever they're called. And he noticed that she's got this thing installed in her chest, this engine, which isn't operating correctly. She's heating up too much and burning people when they touch her. And he recommends that she gets her engine fixed and repaired. But we're going to need this item called, I think it's Hell Iron or something like that. Some kind of special material that we've got to hunt down. Maybe called Infernal Iron or something like that. But yeah, that's going to be part of Karlach's quest, it seems. I still need to do the first part of her quest where we go and hunt down those paladins, but I'll do that at another play session, I think. I spoke to this guy, then when I was speaking to him, this little Tefling ran up to him and pickpocketed him. So I chased after them, and he got really angry here. And even though I kind of did like completely see the Tefling stealing, I decided to back up the kid. Just because my character just always sides with Teflings, even if they're in the wrong. So I managed to use a persuasion check to get him to leave the kid alone. Because I'd helped all the other Teflings, I was kind of on their side already. And again, I didn't really trust this druid faction. I'm not sure if this guy's a druid, but he seems to be aligned with them. Maybe he's just another refugee, but I did feel kind of bad for him because he said it was his mother's locket. So I went back to him to try to like make peace with him and say maybe I can get your locket back for you, but he didn't want to talk to me. But I still had it in my mind to look for that little Tefling that I'd just been speaking to. So I ran around for a little while trying to look for them. Because my plan was to pickpocket the locket back off them. Eventually I ran into this rat, and I had forgotten that I could actually talk to animals and stuff in this game, but I managed to pass a skill check, and I thought maybe this rat would lead me to this Tefling child, because it seemed like rats would know their way around the base and all the hidden areas. So he ran into this room over here with this locked door, and I was like, aha, maybe the Tefling's hiding in here. So I managed to lockpick this door, making sure nobody was watching me, because I thought I was pretty sure I'd get in trouble for trying to do this. So then I went outside, and there was a tiefling in here, but it wasn't the one I was looking for. And the rat, it had chipped a tooth or something, and it was trying to show me what had happened to its tooth. And I assumed it was this tiefling had hit it or something. Um, but I used a little skill check on them and an insight check, I think, and I realized that they'd injured themselves or paralyzed their legs or something. And I decided I was gonna fix that for them, uh, because they were feeling pretty useless. That they were like stuck in this storeroom, just guarding supplies, and they weren't able to fight anymore because they injured their legs by taking this special potion to make them better at fighting, but it had the side effect of crippling them and giving them paralysis in their legs. Um, so yeah, I used another little bar check here to say I was going to heal them. I didn't have a restoration spell, but Shadowheart does. But I realized I couldn't use it because I hadn't rested today. So first of all, I had to go back to the camp and rest and until we were able to use the restoration spell. Um, it took me a little minute to figure that out. I was looking through Shadowheart's gear and stuff and spellbook and trying to figure out what was wrong, and then I realized that I hadn't like rested in ages. It's really a bad habit of mine to forget to go back to camp. But when I went back there this time, this cutscene played, and it turned out the person who's been manipulating Will, this like demon lady, she showed up to voice her displeasure that we'd let Karlak live, and she felt all betrayed and pretty mad that Will wasn't listening to her plans anymore, and she decided to punish him because they seem to have some contract or some pact. Um, and he's sort of ensnared to this demon lady. Um, but she kind of tricked him into thinking Karlak was evil when Karlak isn't really evil at all. She was forced to fight in the Hell War or whatever it's called. And she really did want to be doing it. So I was just like, yeah, you're not touching Karlak. And then I got some approval for that from Karlak and Shadowheart. So Shadowheart is a big fan of Karlak, clearly. But then that caused this lady to punish Will and gave him some big devil horns. And I think that's transformed him into a devil. Uh, I think my tiefling is also a devil. I think it's my subclass or whatever. They seem to be like a frowned upon race. At least that's my impression going by everything that's happened at the druid camp. But maybe that's just a druid problem. Um, but yeah, I spoke to Karlak after that, and she like was happy that Will had spoke up for her, and she was like really happy that somebody actually cared enough to do that. Um, so after that, I decided I would go speak to Will as well and try to figure out if there was anything we could do to help him, because now he's got these big devil horns, the same way we do. And he was basically explaining everything about his contract and how there might be a loophole in the contract, or I think my character suggested that. And we were basically saying we're going to try to find a way for you to get out of this contract, and free you from this demon lady's control. Because I didn't like the idea that she could just show up in our camp whenever she wanted, seemingly, and I thought it was going to be a bit of a problem, so I decided we'd have to get rid of her soon. And Will approves of our plan, and he's glad that we're backing him up and trying to help him out here. Yeah, she was. He's basically explaining all of the details about how he was told he was only going to be hunting devils and heartless people and stuff like that. And Karlak is missing her heart because of the engine that was installed in her. but she isn't really wicked or evil or anything. So Will didn't want to attack her after we like sort of persuaded him that he was in the wrong. So yeah, it's going to be interesting following that quest line. And I'm glad he backed down and saw that he was wrong, because if he was going to really attack Karlach, I was going to have to put him down, to be honest. So after that, I finally managed to get casting this restoration spell, and I fixed this tiefling's legs for them. The rat didn't seem that happy, or it didn't really acknowledge that I'd done that, and it was still looking to me to banish this danger that had injured its teeth. So I'm not quite sure what I was supposed to do, if I was like, if the rat wanted me to kill this character or something. I thought it was maybe this chest the rat had injured itself on, but I didn't want to touch any of this stuff that much because it looked like I would be stealing it. And there is this tiefling right there to like notice me doing that. So I just gave up trying to figure out what the rat wanted. Actually, I saved here and looked in the chest, and I couldn't really see anything that would injure a rat. I looked in some of the vases, but yeah, I couldn't really figure out what it wanted me to do exactly. But I'm glad it led me in there and that I was able to help that another tiefling. And then after I'd done that, this kid who I'd scared off earlier, he returned. This time I saved just in case I failed the skill check, because I didn't want to scare him off a second time and not figure out what his secret is. And it turns out he does have like a little hidden path here. And then I was thinking, okay, this is where these tiefling children who are like stealing all this stuff are probably hiding and hanging out. Because I remembered I'd saved Arabella, or whatever the kid's name was, who was being attacked by the snake. And she was stealing stuff too, apparently. And then it turned out that there's this little like, gang of thieving tiefling children hanging out down here. And this is their leader, Maul. I thought she was a pretty cool character. I liked the cut of her jib. So I decided to invest in her little thieves guild that she was building. I just looked at her inventory and then I think I sold her like some random stuff here. And then I think I got the option to invest like 20 gold into this thieves guild. And that when we get to Baldur's Gate later, she's going to remember that we did this, apparently. So we'll see if that leads to something in the future, where maybe there's a time skip and this Thieves Guild child remembered that we helped them. And I do like helping tieflings, except for this guy who like stole a locket. He's a bit of an asshole. So I tried to talk to him about the locket, but he kind of shut that down. So I was like, okay, I'm just gonna pickpocket it back off you and give it back to the guy. Even though I just invested in their thieves guild. Eventually I realised it was round the corner in this chest where all the loot was. And there was a like pouch here as well full of stuff. So I just stole all that. Because I did give them 20 gold. But also I kind of need to get paid for my help, I thought. So I immediately stole back all their other possessions and just left. Hopefully they don't figure out that it was me. But yeah, because I'm investing in a thieves guild, it kind of they should realize that I'm also a thief, and hopefully that taught them a valuable lesson. But I came back to this guy because I'd felt bad for him, and then I gave him the locket back. And then interestingly, there's a nice little twist where you get him to talk about the locket more here, and he admits that his mother actually stole the locket in the first place from the building she was working in. And then I immediately stopped feeling bad for this guy because he was bullying this tiefling child for stealing when his own mother was a thief, and it's not really a family heirloom at all, and he actually was hoarding stolen goods himself. And I just thought that was a really clever little twist. And it's just one of the small things that sets the writing in Baldur's Gate 3 apart from a lot of other RPGs. Just these little clever twists. But yeah, I think I'll leave it here for today, people, and I'll see you again tomorrow with like day 4 of my Baldur's Gate 3 playthrough.